Imagine a scan that can show blocks in the arteries of your heart vessels in just 10 seconds without inserting a single tube into your body. Sounds like science fiction, right? But that scan already exists and many of you must have already heard about it. It's called CT Coronary Angiography. But here's the real question. Patients ask me every week, if CT angiography can see the arteries, then why do cardiologists still perform invasive angiography? And even more interesting, can this scan actually predict your future heart attack? Namaste and welcome back to HG Cardio Wise. I am Dr. Ameya Amonkar and today we are going to decode everything about CT coronary angiography. What this technology actually is, how it is performed, what it can do, what it cannot do. Is it an alternative to the invasive coronary angiography? Who needs a CT coronary angiography? And finally, can it really predict a heart attack or actually save lives? So let's get started. Coronary artery disease happens when fatty plaques build up in the coronary arteries that supply blood to the heart muscle. Now when a plaque ruptures, a clot forms and blood flow stops. That is what causes a heart attack. For decades, the gold standard to visualize these coronary arteries has been coronary angiography. And this is exactly where CT coronary angiography has changed the game. CT coronary angiography, often called as a CT Angio or a CTCA, uses a high-speed CT scanner, contrast dye and advanced computer processing to create a 3D map of your heart arteries in just a few seconds. Yes, literally 5 to 10 seconds, and we can see narrowings in the arteries, plaque buildup, calcium deposits and even early plaque that hasn't caused a blockage yet. Over the last 10 to 15 years, CT angiography has improved dramatically. Modern scanners have faster imaging, better resolution and lower radiation. Large studies such as the Scott Heart trial showed that CT angiography can actually improve the diagnosis of coronary artery disease and guide preventive treatment. Now let's talk about something every patient wants to really know. What actually happens during a CT coronary angiography? Because for many people, the fear is not the result, the fear is the process. So good news first, CT angiography is quick, non-invasive and usually very well tolerated. But there are a few important preparations here. First, heart rate control. So for the scan to be clear, your heart needs to be relatively still. Now, ideally the heart rate should be below 60 beats per minute. So we often give medications like beta blockers or ivabradine before the scan. Why? Because a fast moving heart is like taking the photo of a moving car. You get a blur, not a clear image. Second, rhythm matters. Irregular rhythms like atrial fibrillation can reduce image quality. Now, not always a contraindication, but definitely a challenge. Third is kidney function. Now, since we use contrast dye, we always check kidney function beforehand. Typically, a serum creatinine test is done because contrast is filtered by the kidneys. In patients with significant kidney dysfunction, we may avoid or modify the test. And fourth, fasting. Usually, patients are asked to avoid heavy meals for a few hours before the scan, and sometimes we give nitroglycerin just before imaging. Why? Because it dilates the coronary arteries and makes them easier to visualize. During the scan, ECG leads are attached, IV contrast is injected, you lie still and may be asked to hold your breath for a few seconds. Now, when the contrast is injected, you may feel some warmth in the body, a metallic taste or slight flushing. Now, this is normal and passes quickly. Serious complications are very rare. Contrast reactions occur in less than 1% of patients if you are allergic to it. Severe reactions are even rarer. So overall, CT angiography is considered a safe test when done appropriately. Patients often worry about radiation. CT angiography radiation is about 3 to 7 millisieverts. That's roughly equal to 1 to 2 years of natural background exposure. Now, invasive angiography radiation may range from 5 to 10 millisieverts depending on complexity. So radiation exposure is similar or sometimes even lower with modern CT scanners. One important technical point here, CT coronary angiography requires high-end CT scanner. So typically we need a 64 slice scanner, or most modern centers use a 128 slice or higher systems. Now these scanners are fast enough to capture images of the heart while it is still moving. A routine CT scanner like the 16 or 32 slice machines are generally not suitable for accurate coronary imaging. So CTCA is more expensive than your basic CT scans and needs high-end scanners, and so we reserve it for situations where the result will change decisions. Now let's understand the real strength of CT angiography. What exactly can it show? First, CT angiography detects blockages or narrowings, what we call stenosis in the coronary arteries. So, we usually classify it based on how much the artery is narrowed. So, mild stenosis less than 50% narrowing, moderate stenosis 50 to 70% narrowing, severe stenosis more than 70% narrowing, and when the narrowing becomes more than 90%, we often call it a critical blockage. The sensitivity of a CTCA is around 90 to 95% for significant disease. So, what this means is that if 100 people actually have a significant blockage, CT angio will correctly detect it in about 90 to 95 of them. So, it is a very reliable test for identifying disease. Now, CT angiography has a specificity of around 80 to 85%. Now, what does that mean? Imagine 100 people who actually do not have a significant blockage. Now, CT angiography will correctly say normal in about 80 to 85 of them, but in about 15 to 20 people, it may give a false alarm and incorrectly suggest a blockage that isn't truly severe. Now, think of it as a very sensitive alarm system. It rarely misses the real problem, but sometimes it may ring even when the problem is not serious. Second, it can detect early disease even before major blockages develop, including the non-calcified soft plaque or early atherosclerosis. Now, this is very important for prevention. Third, it characterizes plaque. So, it can tell us not just how much blockage, but what kind of plaque it is. So, for example, that is more stable plaque or a soft lipid rich plaque, which is the more risky one. So, this is where it moves from diagnosis to risk assessment. Fourth, it rules out disease. Now, this is perhaps the most important strength of CT angiography. We say it has a negative predictive value of more than 95%. Now, let me explain that with a simple example. Now, imagine a patient, Mr. Sharma, he is 45, has occasional chest discomfort, he is worried because of his family history. So, we do a CT angiography and the report comes back completely normal. So, no significant plaque, no blockages. Now, what does that mean? It means that the chance of him having a significant coronary blockage is extremely low. In fact, in more than 95 out of 100 such patients, the arteries are truly normal. So, for Mr. Sharma, this test does not just give a report, it gives reassurance, and more importantly, it helps us avoid unnecessary invasive procedures. That is why in many patients with low to intermediate risk, a normal CT angiography can safely rule out significant coronary artery disease. Fifth, CT coronary angiography evaluates anatomy. So, it can detect anomalous coronary arteries, variations from birth, and also evaluation of bypass grafts in some cases. So, it gives a complete anatomical overview. Now, this is equally important what CT angiography cannot do, because this is where the most misunderstandings happen. First, CT angiography can detect blockages, but it cannot treat them, and this is a very important limitation to understand. Let me give you a very simple example. Suppose a patient, Mr. Mehta, comes with chest discomfort. We do a CT angiography and the scan shows 90% blockage in one of his coronary arteries. Now, at this point, CT angiography has done its job. It has identified the problem, but can we fix it during the same test? No. Mr. Mehta will now need to undergo an invasive coronary angiography. Why? Because only during invasive coronary angiography can we directly enter the artery, confirm the severity, and most importantly, open the blockage with a stent if needed. So, think of it like this: CT angiography tells you where the problem is, invasive angio allows you to solve the problem. It's like getting a detailed Google Maps route, but still needing a vehicle to actually reach the destination. Second, CT angio shows anatomy, that is structure of the arteries, but it does not always tell how much that blockage is affecting blood flow, or what we call as the functional significance. Suppose a patient, say Mrs. Iyer, undergoes a CT angiography, the scan shows a 60% blockages in one of her coronary arteries. Now, this is a moderate or intermediate lesion. The big question here, is this blockage actually reducing blood supply to the heart? Because the answer is not always obvious. In some patients, a 60% block may not significantly affect blood flow and they may have no symptoms and may not need a stent. But in others, the same 60% block can reduce blood flow during exertion, causing chest discomfort and requires treatment. So, the percentage alone does not tell the full story. That is why we sometimes need additional tests like stress testing, stress echocardiography, and nuclear imaging, or invasive measurements like FFR, that is fractional flow reserve. Think of it like this: a road may be narrowed by 60%, but if the traffic is light, cars move smoothly. If the traffic is heavy, the same narrowing causes a traffic jam. Third, CT angiography cannot predict exactly when a heart attack will happen. So what it can do is identify whether there is disease, and in some cases whether the plaque looks higher risk. But it cannot tell us will this happen tomorrow, next month or years later, because heart attacks are not caused just by how much blockage is present, but they are often caused by sudden plaque rupture, and plaque rupture is influenced by many factors. Fourth, in patients with very high calcium scores, images may be difficult to interpret because calcium creates what is called as a blooming effect, so making the arteries look more blocked than they actually are. So in patients with very high calcium scores, typically above 400 or so, CT angiography becomes less reliable and it may overestimate disease, and sometimes we may prefer other tests like an invasive angiogram. Finally, CT angiography may not be ideal in patients with very high heart rates, severe obesity, where imaging quality can have issues, irregular rhythms and advanced kidney disease. So CT angiography is powerful, but it is not a magic crystal ball. It's a tool, not a shortcut. Now a very logical question that patients ask me, doctor, if CT angiography can show blockages, why do we still need invasive angiography? It's a great question, and the best way to understand is through real life situations. So as we saw earlier in someone like Mr. Sharma, who has mild chest discomfort, no major risk factors, a normal ECG, where CT angiography is normal, the chances of a significant blockage is extremely low. We avoid invasive angiography here, we reassure the patient, focus on lifestyle and prevention. So for Mr. Sharma, CT angiography is enough. But in someone like Mr. Mehta, who has chest pain, diabetes and hypertension, where there is critical blockage, CT angio only gives us the diagnosis and we still need invasive angiography to treat it. So CT angio and angiography are not competing tests, they are complementary tools used in the right patient. In fact, in patients like Mr. Mehta, who have typical chest pain on exertion, diabetes, multiple risk factors, where the probability of significant disease is already high, instead of doing a CT angiography first, we may directly proceed to invasive angiography. Now this helps avoid two tests, two contrast exposures, double radiation, more cost and more time delay in treatment. So in many real life situations, going directly to angiography is actually more efficient, more accurate and more practical. This is where CT angiography becomes very interesting. Remember, heart attacks can occur from plaques that were not severely narrowing the artery. Now these plaques are called vulnerable plaques. CT angiography can detect a non-calcified or soft lipid rich plaque, low attenuation plaques and positive remodeling, that is where the artery expands outward. Now all of these may indicate higher risk of future events. So if CT angiography shows early or vulnerable plaque, the real value here is that we can start aggressive prevention before the first heart attack with statins, lifestyle and risk factor control. A very common confusion is between calcium score and CT angiography. Now let's simplify this. See, calcium scoring is a simple CT scan without contrast. It measures calcified plaque only and it gives you a number, that is your calcium score. The higher the calcium score, the higher the overall burden of atherosclerosis and higher the long-term risk of heart disease. But here's the limitation, calcium score cannot see soft plaque. And remember, many dangerous plaques are actually non-calcified. So this is where CT angiography gives us a more complete picture, because it shows where the narrowing is, what kind of material is inside and how serious the problem really is. Think of calcium score as a risk signal and CT angiography as a detailed map of the arteries. So in practice, calcium score is excellent for risk assessment and CT angiography is better for a detailed evaluation and decision making. And increasingly, we are using both tools together to guide precision prevention. So who is the right person for CT coronary angiography? First, someone with chest discomfort, but the diagnosis is not clear. For example, a 40 to 45-year-old, occasional chest pain, ECG is normal, not sure if it's heart related or not. Here, CT angiogram can help clarify things. Second, people with some risk factors, but not very high risk. For example, mildly high cholesterol, family history, maybe borderline BP. So not completely low risk, but not very high risk either. So this is where CT angiography works very well. Third, younger patients with symptoms or risk factors, because we prefer a non-invasive test first instead of directly undergoing an invasive angiogram. And finally, sometimes when a stress test is inconclusive or confusing, here CT angio can give a clearer anatomical picture. Now let's see where CT angiography may not be the best option. First is very high risk patient, So a patient with typical chest pain on exertion, diabetes and multiple risk factors, here we may directly go for invasive angiogram, because if a blockage is present, we can treat it immediately. In patients with suspected heart attack, chest pain with ECG or troponin changes, we usually do not use CT angiogram, we go straight to emergency care and often invasive angiography. Second, if a patient already has a very high calcium score, CT images may not be very reliable here. Third, if the heart rate is very fast or irregular, image quality may be poor. And finally, if someone already has known severe blockages, previous stents, a CT angiogram may not add much value. So, CT angiography is not for everyone. It works best in the right patient at the right time, and at that decision is where your doctor's judgment really matters. So, a CT coronary angiography is a powerful tool, but it is not a replacement for invasive angiography. Now, think of it as a high resolution map of the arteries that helps doctors diagnose disease and optimize prevention. Used correctly, it can change how we detect and prevent heart disease. But like every medical test, the key question is not whether we can do it, but who should actually do it. Now, if you found this helpful, please share it and subscribe to EduCardioWise, because the more you understand your heart, the better you can protect it. This is Dr. Amonkar. Please take care and see you in the next one.